Hello and welcome. You're watching Arts TV Weekly News Review with me, Pete Nash. Each week we bring you the major news items from across Ethiopia and the region. On Monday, Ethiopia's federal government declared a unilateral ceasefire in the Tigray region as rebel fighters entered the regional capital, Mekelle. The announcement made by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed signalled a turning point in the 8-month conflict in Tigray. An unconditional unilateral ceasefire has been declared starting from today, June 28th, read a statement published by state media. The interim administration appointed by the federal government left the regional capital shortly thereafter. The ceasefire will last until the end of the current farming season and is intended to facilitate agricultural production and aid distribution while allowing rebel fighters to return to a peaceful road, the statement said. Eritrean soldiers involved in the conflict were also seen leaving the northern towns of Shire, Axum and Adwa. This week's swift turn of events has left many trying to understand the implications for Tigray as the communication links remain largely cut. UN spokesman Stefan Durajic told reporters that the impact of the current situation on the humanitarian operation remains unknown right now. The Electoral Board of Ethiopia has announced 12 confirmed constituency results in Amhara and Oromia regions. According to the board, the Amhara National Movement won both parliamentary and regional council seats in Addis Ababa. In Oromia region, however, the Prosperity Party won a large majority of the seats. So far, these results have not been appealed by any party. The board will, however, continue to review the results in accordance with standard procedures. Electoral Board Chairperson Burtukan said that out of 942 seats voted upon last week, 618 had been counted, but many had appeals against them. Burtukan went on to say that the only thing which is preventing an official final announcement of the election results is the formal complaints of the parties. Of these, there are currently 160 waiting to be processed. Nebe is working through them with utmost care and haste, with recourse to legal support and counsel where needed. The African Leadership Academy, built at a cost of over 2 billion birr, was inaugurated by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed earlier this week. The academy, which stands on 40 hectares of land near Sululuta town, will be used by Ethiopian and other African leaders to develop their knowledge and exchange experience. The Prime Minister said the academy was built to create leaders who meet international standards and is a place where governance and other key skills can be acquired through training and research. The academy, he went on to say, has a vision to become a regional centre of excellence. According to our reporter Mesfin Faleke, the construction of the academy cost 2.2 billion birr, of which 722 million was covered by the Ethiopian government, with the remaining funds coming from Chinese investment. Originally called the Meles Zenawi Leadership Academy, it was renamed the African Leadership Academy after a decision taken by a council of ministers. This week, 3 employees of the medical charity MSF were killed in Tigray region, the organisation announced. The 3 employees were travelling on Thursday afternoon on humanitarian-related business. The organisation headquarters lost contact with the car, and on Friday morning their bodies were found a few metres from the vehicle. We condemn this attack on our colleagues in the strongest possible terms and will be relentless in understanding what happened, MSF said. Our deepest sympathies go out to their families. At least 12 aid workers have been killed since the beginning of the conflict. Attacks targeting humanitarian workers, facilities and services are in violation of international humanitarian law, as per UN Resolution 1502. So far, there is no official account of who carried out these crimes against the MSF workers. And now to some regional news. Earlier this week, the South Sudan Deputy Foreign Minister announced plans to build a hydroelectric dam on the White Nile River, which runs through its interior. In an interview with the national news agency, Deputy Minister Dengdor Deng Malek said the dam has the capacity to transform the country by providing a reliable source of energy to significantly strengthen the country's industrial capacity. He said South Sudan regularly suffers from seasonal floods, power cuts and poor infrastructure. The dam construction would help address all of these and ultimately help bring prosperity to one of the world's poorest nations. The project, he went on to say, would be financed by revenues from its oil industry and investment from China. The Deputy Foreign Minister said South Sudan has a sovereign right to build the dam and that water usage in the region should be seen as a peaceful, God-given commodity. He added that any dispute over Ethiopia's Grand Renaissance Dam should be resolved through calm and balanced dialogue. The GERD, which sits on the White Nile rather than South Sudan's Blue Nile, is due to begin its second filling in the coming weeks. According to the Ethiopian news agency, South Sudan has already carried out studies to determine the size of the dam, how much water it will hold, and how many turbines it will sustain. The World Health Organization has reported that the third wave of the COVID-19 pandemic in Africa looks as though it will be the worst yet. June 27th data shows that the rolling average of confirmed cases in some African countries was more than 5 times higher than the global average. It is predicted that within weeks, the Africa-wide caseload will surpass the peaks of the first and second wave COVID-19. It is predicted that within weeks, the Africa-wide caseload will surpass the peaks of the first and second COVID-19 waves. The head of WHO's Africa Regional Hub, Dr. Moeti, said the latest surge threatens to be Africa's worst yet. Cases are rising especially quickly in 12 countries, and health systems are already pushed to breaking point in many more. Another WHO medic goes on to say, oxygen supplies and beds are not keeping pace with demand. In some locations, we've reached a real who gets the parachute moment. This is in contrast to the early months of last year, when it was common to hear that Africa had been spared the worst of the pandemic. Experts pointed to low rates of illness and death and speculated on causal factors such as youthful population, Africa's experience of dealing with infectious diseases, or underlying immunity. In light of new COVID data, however, these early positive signs now seem to be based on wrong or overly optimistic assumptions. Vaccinations against COVID-19, which would have lessened the impact of the third wave, have not been rolled out as planned through the internationally agreed COVAX program. Just over 1% of Africans have been fully vaccinated. Of the 3 billion doses administered globally, less than 2% are in Africa. As recently reported in the medical journal The Lancet, COVAX was a beautiful idea born out of solidarity. Unfortunately, it did not happen. Rich countries have behaved worse than anyone's worst nightmares. WHO points to better resource treatment centres and better access to vaccines as effective ways to inhibit the spread of the deadly disease across the continent. A recent study carried out by the South African Medical Research Council outlined the close link between poor nutrition in childhood and successful life chances later in life. In South Africa, where high levels of poverty persist, children often do not receive the right level of nutritious food. This is because healthier foods such as lean meat, fish, fruit and vegetables tend to be more expensive and less readily available than nutritionally poor foods which contain higher levels of sugar, fat and salt. This is despite South Africa sitting on what the study describes as a botanical gold mine of nutritious and medicinal plant species. The study sets out how childhood diet is intertwined with emotional, neurobiological and behavioural development. It also points out that many local foods possess anti-obesity, anti-cancer and anti-aging properties which would help in later life but are not being fully utilised. Early investment in child and adolescent nutrition, it concludes, massively affects overall health in later life. And with healthy and mentally strong adults, nations develop stronger economies, more equal societies and a thriving population. And lastly, the President of Nigeria, Major General Muhammadu Buhari, inaugurated on Tuesday a steering committee resolved to bring 100 million people out of poverty in the next 10 years. Nigeria is Africa's most popular country with well over 200 million people and possesses the continent's largest economy. But despite this relatively high GDP, around 40% of Nigerians live in poverty, especially in its northern and eastern regions. Whilst showcasing the National Poverty Reduction and Growth Strategy, President Buhari promised to address the underlying causes of poverty and develop programs which would deal with the multidimensional causal factors. He said, "The major challenge before the National Steering Committee is to translate our good intentions into positive impact. But if India can lift 270 million people out of poverty between 2006 and 2016, Nigeria can surely lift 100 million in the next 10 years. He ordered the committee to start work immediately and use all arms of the government to meet its objectives. That brings us to another weekly news review on Arts TV. I've been Pete Nash. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.